And I actually have not seen this video yet. It's about Black Lives Matter and Sheriff David Clarke. Sheriff David Clarke, if you don't know who he is, he's pretty good at talking about some of the issues with Black Lives Matter. He's a cop, obviously, so he's definitely supportive of the police department. I mean, he's a cop, of course he is, but he's really good at really talking to these people. These people, I mean the Black Lives Matter people. He does a really good job of tearing them down, I think. So I figured I'd post a video about it, and I would comment as I go through it. This will be the first time I see it.
Our breaking news tonight, 3 officers dead, 3 wounded in Baton Rouge. A really tough day for Baton Rouge and for the country, really. Here to talk about how to keep our police safe is Sheriff David Clarke of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. He is going to be speaking at the Republican convention tomorrow night. Sheriff, thank you very much for that horrific day. I spoke to the heads of the sheriff department, the police department, and the state police down there, and they told us how their hearts were reeling. Their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
That their message is?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them. Of course
Any
I believe them
protests
when they say
over the
that.
deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
Nope.
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
Nope.
What are you asking?
It's a pretty simple question.
I asked you if what's your message.
Doesn't want to answer because he knows the answer is no. He knows that it is no.
To the people, their message is one of peace. What is your message?
My message has been clear from day one 2 years ago. This anti-cop sentiment from this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter has fueled this rage against the American police officer. I predicted this 2 years ago. So what I want to know,
okay, Sheriff.
do I want to know?
With all due respect, do you know that this was because of that?
Yes, I do.
As a law enforcement officer?
I've been watching this for 2 years. I predicted this. This anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country has turned out some hateful things inside of people that are now playing themselves out on the American police officer. I want to know, with all of the black-on-black violence in the United States of America, by the way, when the
Oh, black on black violence. Everybody call racism. Oh wait, he's black. Well, he's Uncle Tom. I don't know. No, he's absolutely right though. He's absolutely right. These people have been pushing an anti-cop narrative as if these cops are starting their day, planning on shooting a black person for no reason. I mean, that's what they've been pushing. And he's tired of it, and you can tell he's angry. He predicted this 2 years ago. Hell, I think anyone could have predicted this. I mean, we have President Obama who comes out every time there is a black person who dies at the hands of a white cop. He always comes out and he always speaks against it as if he immediately knows it's because of racism. The reason he does this, I'm actually planning on making a video soon about Rules for Radicals, which is by Saul Alinsky. Basically, this guy talks about how to change the world without violence, because the violent activism of the Marxists in the 60s and stuff didn't go anywhere, didn't win any hearts. So the idea is that you use other tactics to push the Marxist agenda. And I don't even know if I'd say Obama's exactly a Marxist. I just think he uses the tactics listed by Saul Alinsky in this book, and it's plain as day. I mean, Hillary Clinton does this too. She wrote a paper about Saul Alinsky. Anyway, I'm going to make a video about that. But basically in the book it says, don't let a good tragedy go to waste. So every time there's some instance where he can come out and rile people up, he's going to take it. It's as simple as that. So he comes out with all this rhetoric, anti-cop rhetoric, and then you wonder why cops start dying in the streets. It's because people actually believe these cops are going out and killing people for no reason other than the color of their skin, which I don't agree with.
Tragedies happen in Louisiana and Minnesota. Do you know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on that?
There was a black officer who was killed today. But
was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please, let's just keep the volume down.
No, there was no reporting on it, and Don Lemon's trying to tell him to calm down so he doesn't have to answer the question. I think it's easy for anyone to see the stats and say that black-on-black crime is far greater problem than the cops killing people. I mean, they kill more whites in America, and granted, the white population is quite larger than the black, but per capita, I think per capita more white people die than blacks. Don't quote me on that. I'm about 98% sure. I can tell you for a fact that per capita, the black murderers is way, way, way higher per capita.
So I understand, and listen.
I'm looking at 3 dead cops this week, Sheriff, and I'm looking at 5 last year. You trying to tell me to keep it down?
If you'll just please, we can keep it civil. So, because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish, Don, I wish you had that message of civility
have a conversation
toward this hateful ideology, these purveyors of hate.
You don't know what my message is.
That's
what I want to say to you is,
these people preach vile and virtue in the name of hate.
We're going to go to break, and we'll be right back. Are you going to let me talk before you feel it? Back now live with Sheriff David Clarke of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, and we're here live in...
And he still looks angry. That break did absolutely nothing to calm him down. In fact, it may have made him more angry because the problem with showing anger, and I think so far I think he's pretty awesome, but the problem with showing anger like that is it makes the other person look more reasonable, even if their whole premise is completely fucked. It doesn't matter. You're angry and you're unreasonable. You're the one that looks like the bad guy. So far I think he's doing a good job, though, even though he's obviously pretty angry, but I think all of America should be pretty angry at this point of all this nonsense going on.
Cleveland, you're set to speak tomorrow night, and again, all I want to do is have a conversation. I can't have a conversation with you if we're both talking at the same time. What it sounds like to me is that you're accusing me of violence and supporting a narrative that I'm not necessarily in support of. And if that's what you're accusing me of violence, then you can leave. That's not true. I don't support violence of any type against police officers, against anyone. So if you're accusing me of that, then you're welcome to leave. But if you want to have a conversation, I am more than willing to welcome a conversation with you. I don't disagree with you about there is a narrative across the country that could be harming police officers. But we don't know right now, as someone who's in law enforcement, if that was the actual cause of it.
I'm not sure when this video was released, but I'm pretty sure that it was turned out the guy who killed the Baton Rouge police officers was a member of what the hell are they called? The Nation of Islam, which is a all-black Muslim group that are considered to be in the black supremacist category. So yeah, we would say that he at least most likely killed these cops because of the whole Black Lives Matter rhetoric. I think we could say that. Pretty sure that's why he did it.
Let me ask you this. Do we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know this?
Go on.
I ask a question.
Do I know American general law enforcement are racist? I don't think anyone is accusing. If you're insinuating that people are accusing or saying that law enforcement across this country as a whole are racist, then your assumption is wrong.
I don't think that's a wrong assumption at all. I mean, they talk about it. You know, I don't expect them to be like, not all cops, not all. I mean, this. I'm not Jank, I'm not Jank Uger. But they are kind of pushing the narrative that these, the black people are dying and by police officers all the time, and they're unarmed, and they don't deserve it, and there's no reasoning behind it. And so, I mean, yeah, it's going to cause problems, and we've seen it cause problems, and we're going to continue to see it cause problems. And we need someone to bring us together. I hate to, it sounds so cliched, but Obama's definitely not doing that. I mean, he's not telling, okay, let's wait for the facts to come out, and if the facts say that this guy was murdering black people for no reason, then he will go to jail, and he will, be put under trial, and he'll most likely spend the rest of his life in prison. He's not saying that. He's coming out before any of the facts are known, and he's saying that this is a huge issue in America of black people dying by police officers. And it's not helping. It is not helping.
First of all, this whole anti-police rhetoric is based on a lie. There is no data, and you know this. There is no data, there is no research that proves any of that nonsense. None. Even
you'd have to be more specific about what data and what nonsense you're talking about.
That law enforcement officers treat black males different than white males in policing in these urban centers.
There is data that supports
There is not data.
No, the president spoke about it.
Yeah, that's his defense. Well, the president said it. I mean, I just said that Obama comes out before anything is known. And he is right. Sheriff David Clarke is right. There is no evidence to suggest that. All you have to do is look at other stats, like crime stats, to find out that the majority of people committing crimes, well, crimes in a whole, I think white people commit more crimes. Okay? Per capita, it's black. It is far more of a problem in black communities. And a lot of times these are people who are stealing from black people or black businesses. They're robbing. They're murdering each other. I mean, it's not like, the KKK is running around murdering black people, and that's why there's so many black people dying. The vast majority of murders in the black community are caused by black individuals. It is a fact. It is a fact.
Cedric Alexander,
the president has been lying about it. He said it again the other day when he said black males are 2 times more likely to be shot by a law enforcement officer than white males. Don, that is a lie. It is a lie.
Yeah.
Show me.
He says that is not a lie. It is a lie. It is absolutely a lie. Ugh, my God. It's like Sheriff David Clarke says, the president lied. And the look that he gets, the other guy gets on his face, Don Lemon, is like, how could the president lie? He's got a look on his face like, what? Like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's not. He's just as capable of lying as any other politician in the history of the United States. And they lie a lot. And they push their narrative a lot. Shouldn't be surprising that they're just pulling shit out of his ass or manipulating numbers to match his worldview.
Research.
Show me.
The research
Show it to me
that we have from the Washington Post. That
the Washington Post debunked that nonsense.
There's also research.
He also said
Sheriff,
this time.
There's also research.
He continues.
A Harvard professor that also showed that black people are treated more aggressively by police officers.
No, you are wrong
people.
in your interpretation of that Harvard study, because I read the study. That's not what he said. He said he was surprised to find
that in shootings of the most severe in shootings that he found no evidence that there was a difference. Also, it should be noted that study was a very small.
He basically just admitted that the Black Lives Matter movement was shut down by this Harvard study. He basically admitted that their narrative is completely wrong. He, oh my God.
Sampling of police departments across the country. Many people did not find it credible, but it is also interesting that in that research, he found that blacks were treated differently when it came to aggressive policing, but for the most egregious shootings, he found no difference. That's what that study showed.
Well, based on what? Just generally? Or are we talking about high crime areas? Are we talking about police officers being under attack? Because let's go back to where this whole thing started in Ferguson, Missouri. The lie was hands up, don't shoot.
He does not want to talk about Ferguson. He knows that it was a lie. He knows it was bullshit, and he knows that President Obama came out and pushed the fucking narrative, even though nothing was known at that time. The DOJ investigated, and they determined that the cop was telling the truth. The cop was telling the truth. He was attacked, and he acted in self-defense. At no time did he put his hands up and say, "Don't shoot." At no time did that happen, but they're still pushing this narrative. They're still pushing it. So the Sheriff David Clarke here, he brings it up. Don Lemon doesn't want to talk about it. Why? Because he knows it's bullshit. He knows that Eric Holder, under the direction of President Obama, investigated this and found no racism. Trust me, if they found that, even if there's even a small chance that the cop was lying, he would have went in front of a judge. He would have went to trial. And in the court of public opinion, he's guilty. But in reality, they found nothing. The cop was telling the truth, and Don Lemon does not want to acknowledge that.
A whole bunch of things into one. If we can do one specific
That's
thing,
where this whole phony movement started. It started out as hands up, don't shoot.
You're talking about Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Okay. So if you want to, you would need to speak to someone who is a member of Black Lives Matter about whether they have perpetrated a fraud on the American people. That's up to Black Lives Matter. That's not me. I'm neither a member of Black Lives Matter, I'm neither a supporter or someone who doesn't support them. I simply report on Black Lives Matter.
Do you condemn the anti-police rhetoric coming from this hateful ideology?
As a journalist sitting here on television, I don't have to condemn anyone.
Oh my God, that's fucking hilarious. As if everyone watching this doesn't know Don Lemon's political leanings. Seriously. And the fact is, I think everyone's biased in one way or another. You can tell where I stand on this subject. But I think everyone's biased one way or another, and they present the news with that bias in mind. Some are not as obvious as others, and some are plainly obvious. They are plainly obvious. And I'm talking about all of them. I'm not just talking about the opinion guys, like the Melissa Harris Perrys and the Bill O'Reillys of the world. I'm talking about actual journalists. They are all biased in one way or another. And a lot of times you can figure out what they believe.
Anything. That is something that you should ask. Other people around the country,
I condemn
their jobs to condemn
just like I condemn the hateful ideology out of groups like the KKK. All right? I condemn it. There is no place in American discourse for that sort of vile, vitriolic hate coming out of this ideology. This has fueled and fanned the flames of this anger toward the American police officer. There's only one group in America, one time, that truly cares about the lives of black people in these urban ghettos. And it's the American police officer who goes down there on a daily basis, puts their life on the line to protect who? Black people.
Very good point. Very good point. There are cops dying in these communities. I mean, it's their job to protect these communities. They go there and they put their lives on the line. They really do. So this whole nonsense the Black Lives movement pushes, the Black Lives Matter movement pushes, is nonsense. Is absolute nonsense.
So when you say we just want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation about the black-on-black crime, which kills more black males, which is more of a threat to any black male in the United States.
Oh, let's call him a racist. Well, yeah, he's black. I forgot. It's the second time I've done that. Jeez. Uncle Tom. He's an uncle. He's an Uncle Tom, isn't he? Yeah. No, he's absolutely right here.
Than a law enforcement officer.
Sheriff. Yes, that's a different conversation. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. There's an issue when it comes to violence. Black on black crime, or it's crime. White people kill white people, tend to kill white people.
You know,
black people tend to kill black people.
Not in the numbers.
That's fine, but that's a different
I don't care who white people are killing.
That is a different conversation than police brutality, and we're not having that conversation right now.
And
again, I want to be very clear with you. I condemn all violence of any type, just for the record.
Was the situation between Mike Brown and Darren Wilson, was that police brutality?
But we're not talking about Mike Brown and Darren Wilson.
I am.
No, if you're asking me what the Justice Department showed, the Justice Department showed that it exonerated Officer Darren Wilson.
He admitted it. Earlier, he tried avoiding this conversation, and he kind of tried this time again, but I think this is the second or third time that he's been asked a question like this, so he finally answered. Of course, it exonerated him. He was telling the truth. Now he has to hide for the rest of his life because of this false narrative of hands up, don't shoot. He has to hide. And all he did was, he just defended himself. That's all he did. But these people want to jump, and God, I can't believe I have to say this. These people, as in people who support Black Lives Matter, who are in Black Lives Matter, including Cenk Uygur, all these fucking people, they just kept pushing the narrative. And it didn't matter that none of the facts were out yet. Didn't matter.
And that the hands up, don't shoot narrative was a false narrative. That has been reported by CNN and by others.
Was another phony report.
Again, he says, CNN has reported this. We've talked about it. This is old news. Okay, well, yeah, it's been reported, but the thing is, it's still being pushed. I think D.L. Hughley, I think. He's a comedian. I'm sure you guys know who he is. He was on Fox News or something, and he brought up Darren Wilson as if he shot him for no reason. And this is, they're still pushing this narrative. They're still pushing it. So Don Lemon says, this is old news. We've reported on it. Everyone knows that Darren Wilson was in the clear. Well, that's not true, okay? Not everyone knows that. They're still pushing this narrative, and I think people in the news media should point this out. If people come onto their show and they say, hands up, don't shoot, Darren Wilson got away with murder, they should correct them. They should correct it. It doesn't matter what news station it is, they should correct them.
What does that have to do with Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
All right, because when you take in
what does that have to do with Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
Rates of involvement,
because it pushes the Black Lives Matter narrative. That's what it has to do with Baton Rouge. It keeps the lie going. People are still pushing this nonsense. So that is exactly what it has to do with Baton Rouge. He's pointing out that these people are lying. And because these people are lying, people are getting killed now. They believe that these cops are getting away with murder. It doesn't matter that the evidence suggests otherwise. That's what it has to do with Baton Rouge.
and violent crime, and crime in general, but violent crime, you're going to see that black males are overrepresented. Overrepresented in terms of being involved in violent crime. That's going to mean more arrests. That's going to mean more people going to prison. This stuff has already been debunked.
Sheriff, that's a different conversation.
Every time you don't have a response to something I say, you say it's a different conversation.
I don't have a response to you. Is that we're having two different conversations. I'm asking the questions here. You're answering the questions by asking questions about some other subject that we're not discussing.
We're talking about this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter. You said you're not a member. You can't be a member. It's not an organization. There's no structure.
That's what you're talking about.
Listen, I understand, and it is a hateful ideology.
I understand it's a very stressful time for you.
These individuals.
And Sheriff, we appreciate you coming on.
They preach vile and vitriol in the name of virtue.
Thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate it. We understand it's a very tough time for you.
Okay. Well, Sheriff David Clarke, he has he talks a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement, and he's really good at this. He's got a lot of good points. I think he would have done a better job if he would have kind of talked about all the nonsense narrative that the Black Lives Matter push, and kind of try to tie it directly to the Baton Rouge. I think at the time it wasn't known exactly who this person was, and that he was a member of the terrorist group that he is a member of, the Nation of Islam. And I'm pretty positive that's exactly what group he was involved with.